Hey church family, welcome to this episode of For the Church. Today I am joined by Sonny Rutherford and we're going to talk about one of his favorite subjects, which is apologetics and why it's important for every Christian to be an apologist. So Sonny, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to talk about my passion, which is apologetics. I told Pastor the first day I met him, I'm your resident apologetics junkie, and I am a junkie when it comes to apologetics.
Everybody needs a hobby, right?
Yeah. This is a good one to have.
It is a good. So what exactly is apologetics?
Short answer, defending the faith.
Right.
It is much like being in a court of law, and you're the defense attorney, and you make your case, and you pile up evidence that what the Christian faith says is true, and you defend the truths of the Christian faith, which we know to be true, but we need to know how to defend it. And we get our command to do this from the Bible. From 1 Peter 3:15 we read, "Sanctify the Lord God in your hearts, and always be ready to give a defense for the faith that you have in you."
Absolutely.
And do it with gentleness and respect. And sometimes that's a bit difficult.
That is hard for some of us, that's for sure.
But that's what we do. So you can be an apologist for anything that you are passionate about. You can be an apologist for your favorite brand of automobile, or for a politician or a political party or anything. But Christian apologetics is defending the Christian faith against the things that come up against it. People will come up against the truth of the Bible, against the existence of God or whatever, and we are here to be prepared to defend those beliefs. And we have another little used verse from Jude, which says we are to contend earnestly for the faith.
Yeah.
And there are others buried in the Bible as well. And if you want to talk about reason and logic, you can go all the way back to the Old Testament, to Isaiah 1:18, where we read, "Let us reason together, saith the Lord."
Yeah.
So God is a reasoning and a logical God. He put a universe together that works the same all the time so we can study it. He made science possible. Science does not bury God. Science is in conjunction with God. Now, apologetics is not something new. Some people may be thinking, what is this new stuff, this new thing that's come out about apologetics? Well, it is not new. It is very old. It goes back to the Bible. And guess what? Two very prominent people in the Bible used apologetics. One of them was Jesus himself. And my favorite go-to is Luke chapter 7, where John the Baptist, he was in prison, sent his disciples to ask Jesus this question: "Are you the coming one, or do we look for someone else?" When they got to Jesus and asked him that question, he went to doing miracles right then. It says at that very hour, he healed the sick, he gave sight to the blind, he healed the deaf, and then he said, "Now you go back and tell John what you've seen and heard." He didn't just say, "Yeah, go back and tell John I said I'm the one." He gave evidence. He used apologetics right there. Another huge apologist in the Bible is Paul. And Acts 17, that whole chapter is apologetics.
Absolutely.
As the way Paul used it. What Paul did, as recorded in 17, the first 4 verses, he went into the synagogue 3 Sabbaths in a row, and he reasoned from the scriptures. And the reason he used scriptures is because he was talking to Jews. Right. So he found a common starting point, and that's what he used to convince the Jews. And it says at the end of those 4 verses that some were convinced and became believers. And then the rest of chapter 17 of Acts is devoted to Paul in Athens and on at the Areopagus, where he debated with Epicureans and Stoics and many others from all over. And with them, he noticed that the place was full of idols. And he said, "I see that you even have an idol to the unknown God. And this is the one I wish to reveal to you." And then he argued, talking to those people, Paul used creation and the one God that they didn't know. He said, "This is the one I wish to proclaim to you." And at the end of that, again, it says that some people were convinced and believed. So apologetics is not new. And then moving on past the Bible into the 1st and 2nd century, my favorite go-to is a fellow by the name of Justin Martyr. Justin Martyr wrote, as far as I know, 3 books. He may have written more. Title, amazingly, First and second, apology.
Yeah.
And those were directed at the Roman emperor to convince him. And then he wrote Dialogue with Trypho the Jew, in which he was trying to convince Jews that Jesus is the Messiah. So apologetics was used early on. Justin Martyr was born 110 AD, died 165 AD. So this started early on.
Right.
Then we go on up through history, and there was Augustine. Some people call him Augustine. That as we move on through history. And then we had a fellow by the name of Thomas Aquinas. He wrote Thomas Aquinas' 5 ways that you know there has to be a God. And then moving on up, we have in the 19th century, we had a fellow by the name of Simon Greenleaf, which many people may not have heard of, but he was a Harvard law professor. And he wrote a little book that's very easy to read called Testimony of the Evangelist, in which he lays out the case for a court of law that the New Testament has to be the truth and Jesus has to be the Messiah.
That's a very informative walk through kind of a good bit of church history and apologetics there.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. Why is it important for the sort of everyday Christian to know about apologetics and defending their faith?
For me, for the Christian to know apologetics, it will strengthen your faith. It will help you to stand up against opposition. It will keep you from being intimidated by these people who supposedly know more than you do. If you have studied apologetics a bit, you'll be better able to withstand those attacks. And one thing that I really get to keep in mind is when you're talking to someone, if there's a crowd around, be aware and be kind and gentle, but be firm in your belief and don't be afraid. And if you don't know some things, you can be intimidated, but never to worry. Some of the best have walked away shaking their heads, I wish I hadn't said that. Mm-hmm. So you will fail sometimes, we all do, but know that apologetics can help you to defend. And it's good to know some things. Let me tell you, the pastor loves apologetics, Pastor Hammond, but he used a lot of apologetics in his first few sermons on Genesis. That was just, it got me. I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked his use of apologetics in that, so that was good. And I want to commend the series that he's going to start this Sunday night. Please, if you possibly can, come. How We Got the Bible, how you know it's the truth. It will be a very good study. It will change your life.
Absolutely.
And the other thing for us as Christians to know, we need to pass this on to our children and grandchildren. We need to help them understand, because they're going to get hammered in school.
Absolutely.
And especially if they go on to college. And I talked with the pastor a bit, and we both read some of the same books. We read Ken Ham's book, Already Gone, and it's scary. Ken claims that we're losing 70 to 80% of our young people when they leave a church just like this and go on to college, and we can lose them in the first 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I've heard horror stories of these kids going off to college. 6 weeks later, they call home and say, Mom, Dad, I don't believe in God anymore.
Yeah.
And I know of one gentleman who got in his car, drove immediately to the university where his daughter was, talked to her for hours and got nowhere. The people giving the talk during that said that if that daughter had been taught apologetics and had been better grounded into faith, this might not have happened. So we need to teach our kids and our grandkids how they can know that Christianity is true and how to push back, especially against evolution.
Right.
That is a vehicle that so many people ride to atheism. One of my heroes said that it is the least supported theory that anybody's ever come up with. There's no facts to back it up.
Sure.
So,
well, I got one more question for you. What are some of the top resources you would suggest for somebody who's getting interested in apologetics, wants to learn more about it?
Now, this one may surprise you, Jonathan, but one of the ones I like for somebody starting out is Cold Case Christianity by a fellow by the name of J. Warner Wallace. And he was a cold case detective. He was an atheist. And his wife finally got him to go to church, and he said, this guy, Jesus, sounds pretty smart. I think I'll check him out. And he read the 4 Gospels, and being a detective, he said, I know what eyewitness testimony sounds like, and this is it.
Right.
I may not like it, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
So he was convinced that way, and he's written several books. The second one by him that I would recommend is Forensic Faith. And the reason I recommend that is because you get into that book, and he lays about 7 disciplines that a Christian should be able to answer, and he will help you with the answers. So they're there. The other, if you want to get a little bit deeper, is I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Frank Turek.
Yeah.
It is a little bit more intimidating, but if you can work your way through it, you will know a lot.
Yeah.
And there are websites galore. You can go to YouTube and type in Christian apologetics, and you will just be bombarded.
Yeah.
And I know you like Red Pen Logic.
Yeah.
And
Wes Huff.
And Wes Huff.
Yeah, Apologetics
They're very
Canada.
good. We're on the same wavelength there.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one that I got just the other day. R.C. Sproul, S-P-R-O-U-L,
Yeah.
Defending the Faith.
Tremendous.
If you can make it through that 55 minutes, you will be amazed. It'll be life-changing,
Yep.
especially his prayer at the end. It's just something to behold.
Yeah.
And then for the ladies, we have Elisa Childers, who does an amazing job, and Lydia McGrew, who has written a book that I have, and probably written some more. And then for the mothers, Mama Bear Apologetics.
Mm.
And that goes into teaching your young children how to maneuver through what they're going to be hit with in even the lower grades of school, the transgenderism, the homosexuality, and all that. And they will teach you how to teach your children how to deal with that.
Right.
So being a bookworm, my first is books, but I spend a lot of time on YouTube listening
Certainly,
to these guys.
yeah. I mean, we're in it's a good time and a bad time,
Right.
to be on the internet, right?
Right.
Because there's everything on the internet,
Right.
but then there's also like Red Pen Logic, Tim Barnett, Wes Huff is very active on YouTube.
Yeah.
Just being able to go, you could probably learn how to change out the headers on YouTube pretty easy on your car, you
Yeah.
know. It's amazing what you can find, but I'm glad that there are people who are out there using it for defending the
Good,
faith
yes.
and for God's glory.
And you
altogether.
mentioned Tim Barnett.
Mhm.
He's with Stand to Reason.
Stand to Reason, yeah.
Okay, Greg Kokel is the master behind that.
Right.
And his book, Tactics, once you get into a little bit of apologetics, then you go to Tactics, which is practical application, how to use what you know when you're on the street.
Right.
Those are great resources.
Yeah. Well, Sonny, I really appreciate you coming and talking to us today. I hope that we're going to light a fire for some folks and that they'll get interested in apologetics, and then maybe we'll be able to do a Sunday night series on just apologetics.
Yep.
We might have to tap you to teach that one.
You can use a couple of resources right here local. The pastor is into apologetics, and if you want to know more, you can always call me.
Absolutely.
I'll be glad to talk to you.
Well, all right, church family, there we go. If you're interested in apologetics, as Sonny said, he'll be happy to talk to you. Obviously, us here on the church staff would be glad to talk to you as well, give you some resources. But as always, we hope to see you this coming Lord's Day. And as always, may God bless you.